everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Welcome everyone to Electrical Engineering Department information session. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Thuy. I am the Department Chair of Electrical Engineering Department. With me today, we have Mr. Bradley Carrillo. He's the Department Analyst. So this okay, he just smiled to you. All right. So what I'm going to do today is I will walk you through the information about the electrical engineering, and then after that, I begin to take this question, and then I will try my best, to answer any question that you have. Now, when you hear the term electrical engineering, some of you may thought about electrical mean electrical, okay, but it's not true. Electrical here we mean a lot of things. So electrical is really a kind of a very broad term, and because of that, in our department we have many options for these students who get a degree in electrical engineering can be specialized into those areas or option. Now, in order for me to show you what it means for that, let I show you, share to you the department website. Okay, in our department, I can say that all of the information from the curriculum to the policy to this advising everything, we have it on the department website. So if you come to our department website, you can find almost all of the information there. Now let us share the department website with you. Okay, so I think that everyone see the department website, right? Okay, so this is our department website. Here you can see that www.shu.edu/ee. Okay, so that's our department website address. Now this we still updating the department website because in the past we use different website, and now the university require us to use the same server on the university. So we just migrate our department website to here last semester. So it's still a few information is still missing, but I believe that at the end of this semester we will have everything on the website. Now, when you look at the website here, the first thing I want to show you about what kind of option, what kind of areas do we have in electrical engineering department, or when you get the degree in electrical engineering, what kind of specialization that you can have. Okay, so the advice section here show you that if you click on that, and then you will see that the option we have here, if you go down, you see the area advisor, and the advisors here for quite a number of options. And here you can see that we have the communication, signal processing, and remote sensing option or area. We have the network security, mobile network, and the IoT. IoT means the Internet of Things or Internet of Everything. Those are the new area that just pop up about like 10 years ago. And we had a microprocessor, computer, embedded system, and digital system. We had device physics, microelectronics, nanoelectronics, or analog electronic integrated circuits, power electronic or energy system. And in the past few years, we start to involve into artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, control, robotic, autonomous system. And that last year, we start to involve into the quantum information and quantum computing. So you can see that the department or the name is electrical, but it doesn't mean that only power or electrical. It means that we involve a lot, everything that have electrical, electronic, that involve electrical engineering department. Now, and then you can see that for each area here, we have the name of the faculty, or I say the professor who working in this area. So if you want to find out the credential of the professor, what you can do is you can just go to here, you go to About Us, you look into, you click on the faculty here, okay, and then you will see that we list all of our faculty here with their credential. Like here, Professor Muhammad Badawi, he's an assistant professor and he graduated from University of Akron. Professor Trikao Hu, who is a professor and he from the Texas A&M University, thing like that. Okay, now because like I said, because we still working on the website, because that a few photos of the professor here we haven't uploaded yet, but I believe that at the end of this semester we will have everybody photo on the website here. And you go over here, you will see that all of the professor with the name like here in myself. Okay, I'm the professor and also the chair, and I graduate from the University of California, Berkeley. Okay, now for the graduate student, I mean the undergrad student, you will interact very often with one particular advisor we call the undergrad advisor. Let I find out where is he here. Dr. David Perrin. He's the professor and also the undergrad advisor. We will put it here very soon. As for undergrad student, you will very much communicate with Professor Perrin because he's the one that give you on of the information, advising or kind of approval, something that for you. Okay, now so those are the full-time professor. Now beside 17 full-time professors here, we also had adjunct professor. Okay, those faculty, they are the part-time. Some of them are these retiree, and some working professional from industry, and they teach one course or two courses for us. And also we have the credential on of those lecturers here for you also. Okay, like you can see that the for the adjunct, their title we call lecturer. All right, and then we also have the staff here. And then if you look into the staff, we see that we have Mr. Carrillo here, and he's here with you today. Okay, he's the department analyst, who is the main person that this overall take care of everything in the department. And then we have Mr. Rupa Gadam, he's the department coordinator, mainly to help the student with the paperwork. And then we had already Leon, these technical staff, mainly responsible for all of the lab, the equipment in the department, and we had a number of student assistants to help the department also. Now, so you already see the faculty and the staff and the areas that the electrical engineering department provide to you. And then you may have a question about, okay, so with that many areas, so what kind of lab we have? Now, in order for you to see that what you're going to deal with, what you're going to involve with the core and with the lab, you can look into the results here, and then you can see that the laboratory, you click on that, and then you will see that we have a number of lab here that for you to study, do the experiment. Now some lab we call the instructional lab. It means that you only come to that lab when you enroll into the course that involved with that lab. The other lab we call the open lab. It means that the student can go there and do the experiment by themselves, use the equipment anytime that you want to. And then we have the research lab also, and sometimes the research lab and the instructional lab and the open lab combined together also. We have the research lab. They are the lab that the student and the faculty use to do the research or to do the project. Okay, suppose like here we had a center of power electric, a converter lab, we had a communication lab, we had a circuit lab, a networking lab, we had communication lab. So we know all kind of lab here that to is to serve your study and research in electrical engineering program. And the total number of lab we have 18 lab. And every year we look at the equipment in the lab and we see that any lab that need to be the equipment maybe become obsolete, and then we will try to replace it. And most of our lab are sponsored by the industry, by the company. Okay, suppose like we have the FPGA lab, that is the lab that are sponsored by Xilinx. Okay, and we had a Synopsys lab that's sponsored by Synopsys, the company. We had a Cadence lab sponsored by the Cadence company. So beside that, we also have a few labs that actually the student take the course over here, but the company sponsor for the student to go into that company to use their equipment, the real equipment in the company to do the lab also. Okay, now so now you see that the option or the area that you can study in electrical engineering, the faculty credential, the staff, the part-time, the full-time faculty that teach the course and help you to do the research, give you the advice for the area you choose. So and then now what you want to know next is, okay, what is the curriculum? Okay, so for the curriculum you can go to here and then you can look at, let's see, degree requirement. Okay, you click into that, and then you see this page here give you the requirement that you have to go through to complete in order for you to get the Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. Okay, now when you go into this, now you see the critical part. Critical part means that the course you have to take in theory and you should not miss, because if you miss the course, you will be delayed in your graduation. Okay, so that we call the critical part. Okay, now in order for you to see that what course you need to complete in order for you to get a degree, we make a few examples we call the roadmap or the plan. Okay, so this is the BSE roadmap here. Let I click on that, and then by look at this, and then you can see that what kind of course that you need to complete. Now, before I go through this a little bit, I would like to talk about this one. Okay, now in the past we had 120 units required for the degree. However, last year the state required all students have to have 3 units and ethics study. All right, okay, because of that it become a 123 units. Okay, so the state required 3 units, but at the same time say that we should drop one course. It means that 3 units to make the total still 120 units. However, we go through all of the requirements. We talk to the industry advisor. We have the ABET accreditation for the program. We finally found that we cannot drop any technical courses because of the 3 unit ethics study addition, but from the state requirement. Because of that, we put a proposal to the state for the increase the number of units into 123. And at this moment, it's not finalized yet, but we already had approval on the way into the Chancellor office in Sacramento. And I believe that sometime in this summer, they will approve it. Then it means that the requirement for the BSE degree will be 123 units, not 120 units. Okay, but this one's still valid. The only difference is you will need to add 3 more units ethics study into into maybe the first year or the second year. Okay, now when you look to this, you will see that what is the requirement. Okay, the first thing required for the bachelor degree in electrical engineering, for you to begin to take the course at upper division level that specialize in electrical engineering, you must go through the sequence of courses specialized in math, physics, and chemistry beside the general education. Okay, so for the math, we require the calculus and differential equation. You can see that we require calculus 1, calculus 2, calculus 3, and differential equation. Okay, for the physics, we require the 3 courses of engineering physics: physics 50, that is mechanics, and then physics 51, that's the electricity and magnetism, and physics 52 is the wave, light, and heat. Okay, so for the physics, we require 3 engineering physics. Math, we require 3 calculus and differential equation. Chemistry, we require 1 chemistry. It's the first college level chemistry. And then you take a few courses in the basic electrical engineering and programming. That means EE 97, EE 98, and EE 30. EE 30 is about programming, UC and C++ programming language to program the microcontroller. 97, 98 are the 2 cores in electronic circuit. Once you pass all of that, you go to the junior level. It means that you begin to take the course, the upper division course in electrical engineering, and senior level, the same thing. You take the course in upper division in electrical engineering, and then for last year, you will spend time to take the senior design project, or we say the capstone project. Okay, it means that during this finalized year of your school, you will spend time to work with a few of your classmates, to work in the team, to design the project based on your interest. Okay, so that we call the senior design project. You can see here this is EE188. A is the senior design project 1, and then the 198B is the senior design project 2. It's the course sequences that you design the project, by your own, and then you do the oral presentation, and then you do the oral presentation. We call the symposium. It means that you do the presentation to the public. Okay, now beside the number of required electrical engineering course, you have 4 upper division technical elective course that you choose by your own. So those are the elective course that you will specialize into the area that you want to. Okay, the required course means that everybody have to take the same course. Okay, those are the fundamental basic course about electrical electronic control system. Those are the course that everybody have to take. And then based on your interest in the area, in the option that I show you when we when we first start the session here, based on your interest in those sessions, you will take the course in the area that that you are interested, so that you specialize yourself into the area that you want to. So you have 4 electives. It means that 12 units for you to do so. Okay, now, and then you may have a questions, say, okay, so how do I know what the course look like? Okay, you can do so by go back to here, go to here, you look at the syllabus here. Okay, you click on the syllabus, it will bring you to the place that you can even download the syllabus of the course that you want to. Okay, like here you see that if you want to download the syllabus, you can click here, you go to Google Drive, and then we had a syllabus that for all of the course, so that you can download, or you can look at the catalog, okay, so that you can see what is the description of of the course. But you can click in here, you go to the course catalog, and also down here you can see that we had a required course that in electrical engineering that all students must take, and then we had a number of technical elective courses here that you can choose. Okay, for the Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering, you are required to choose 4 courses from this list here, so that you can be specialized in one particular area that that you want to. Okay, and if you click into this, it will bring you to the course catalog. Okay, and let's see here. So okay, so this is the course catalog from university, and if you click on this, and then it will have a description of the course here for you to see. Okay, now finally you may have a question that let I do this again. I accidentally closed the website. Okay, let us share the screen again. Okay, and then finally you may have a question about, okay, what if I need help? Okay, what is support that I have? Okay, you can go to the resource here. Okay, and one particular support that I think that most of students need is, if you had a question, you need to have a tutor, then you can go to here, and then you can look at this. You can look at where's that new student party class schedule tutorial. Okay, if you click on this, and then you can see that we have a guide and tutorials over here. Okay, so those are the information that you may take a look, and supporting document here. And these we have many places that do the tutorial that you may get in, and then try to find the help. Okay, now beside the tutor that support from the university, we also have, let I go to this, we also have the student organization. You see the IEEE student chapter that they do some kind of tutorial to support student also. Okay, you can come to BSE tutoring service. It will list on of the tutorial service that you can see here, and then this the student club. Okay, so here they see the IEEE student chapter that they volunteer to help whoever that need help. Just come here, and then they have some kind of tutorial session to help students with the difficult courses. And also I encourage you join into those student club also. We have the IEEE student chapters as of the state. I think that everybody know IEEE, right? It's the international electrical and electronic engineering society that in fact is dictate everything regard to the electrical, electronic, computer engineering, on kind of standard design will be dictated by this kind of particular organization. And we have the IEEE student chapter belong to the electrical engineering department. And we had a very large room, the room E376, that yield for the student IEEE student chapter, to organize on kind of talk with industry. They invite many experts to go to give the presentation to the student. So you are encouraged to join this organization, to become a member, so that you can benefit from their activity. And beside that, we also have the SKN organization. It's also under the IEEE, but SKN is an honor organization. It means that in order to join, you have to meet the standard. Okay, so for the standard, it means that you have to be 20% top student in the department. Okay, so let's say that we have 500 undergrad student. 20% is mean that you have to be the top 100 student in the department in order for you to join the IEEE SKN chapter. Okay, so if you want to find out how to join, if you want to take a look at the organization, whenever you had a time to be on campus, please feel free to stop by at the room E376. Okay, the room 370 is the office of this IEEE officer, and the E370 here beside that room is the E376. Okay, they connect together. You can go to the E376, take a look at the area, and then you can talk to the IEEE officer in that room also. Okay, so I think that that is all of the information about this the department. So let I stop here, and then I will take the question. Okay, okay. Bradley, can you help me with any question that they have on the chat? Let's see. Okay, I had a question. What specialization are there for EE at JU? And when can we come for an in-person tour of the labs? Okay, now right now, because of the pandemic, I think that you have to contact the college about a tour. They organize some kind of tour, and I don't know exactly about the schedule. But when you contact the college about organize the open house here, you can ask them that you want to visit the EE labs, and then they will contact me, and then they will work out with me on the schedule, and then I will hire the people to help you to tour the lab. Okay. Okay, and regarding the specialization, I already present that in the website. You can take a look at the website. You go to the website at the advising session, and you will see that on kind of specialization that will is there. Okay. The other question is, how can we get a tour of the labs? Okay, so that's it, the same thing. Please contact the College of Engineering regarding the tour, and then they will connect to me, because in the past it was very straightforward that I can say that, okay, we had a time, this time, that time, what day, feel free to stop by. But now because of pandemic, the university has some kind of protocol required for for you to be on campus. So that's the reason that you have to contact them. What kind of project would we do? Okay, now we have two kind of project. When you work when you take the course, most of the course, they had a final project. Okay, some course with the lab component, you had the lab exercise, maybe one lab exercise per week or one lab exercise every week. And then at the end, you had the final lab project. Some other course, they don't have the lab, just the lecture course, but most of them at the end, you will have the final project no, for that particular course. Okay, that's the one kind of project. The project will very much concentrate into the content of that course. The other kind of project, like I mentioned, is the senior design project. Is the project that you work in a team of at least 2 students in one team, and at most 4 students in one team. And this is the 1 year project that you spend 1 semester to do the study by your own, go through everything, and then finalize and come up with the proposal. And then you spend the second semester to work on your project to finish everything that you propose for that project. You will have one advisor to help your group with the project. And for the first semester, after you finish a proposal, you will do the oral presentation about your proposal. And then for the second semester, when you finish the project, you will do the oral presentation of your project with the student and with the instructor. And also you will do the oral presentation at this at the project symposium that we invite external people to attend also. Okay. Are there any prerequisites that we need to sign up for the BSMS in EE? Yes, we propose to have the BS plus MS in EE. This proposal, what we propose is the student will be able to take one course, one core course less. It means that instead of you have to take 2 core courses like the normal master degree program, you take only 1 course. And also the student will be able to use 3 courses, 3 elective course of the BS degree, use that for the master degree with the condition that do 3 elective courses must be the grad level courses. Okay, because that you have to apply for this program when you start in the 3rd year of the bachelor degree. And we had a requirement there. The requirement is the first thing is your GPA must be 3.0, and some other class is have to be 3.0 also. You can take a look at the catalog. Okay, you can go to the university catalog. You can go to our website. You go to the syllabus. You click on that. It brings you to the catalog. Okay, like I just showed before. And when it go to the catalog of the department, you can click on the BS plus MS program, and all the information will be there. Okay. And basically, the requirement will be very much academic standard. It means that your GPA must be 3.0, and your grade of a few required course have to be B or above. Okay, it means that everything is 3.0. Okay. On classes in person? The answer is it should be. Okay. In the past, because this is the in-person degree, so 100% all of the class in person. But because of the pandemic, we go to online for 2 semesters, and we'll go back to hybrid and in person. Now, for this spring, I say that we have 70% of the classes are in person. Okay, and for the fall 2022, about 80% of all of our classes will be in person. And I believe that in spring 2023, we may go back to 100% in person. Okay, I can say that any class that involve the lab and the project will be in person. So that's the reason that we have only like 20% of class in person, because like I said, the most of our class involve the project and involve the lab. Okay. Are there any study abroad program to do semester in Taiwan or China? Yes, we have some kind of, I mean, the college has some kind of program that the student can take off one semester and go to studies from some other country. It's like the group. Okay. And in the past, we have to go to China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. It depends on the year that the college will choose one particular country to go. So it's not like every year we go to Taiwan or China. It depends on the college they choose which year. So you can look at the college website, okay, and then they have that program. And also the college will send out the email to the student also for the student to apply to that program. Usually we have like 20 to 25 students go to study abroad together with one faculty, and spend one semester over there to take a few courses and then do the trip or something like that, and then come back. Okay, so the information for each trip will be a little different. Okay. Okay, thank you, Scott, for put this put the tour here. Let's see. Yeah, campus tour. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the tour is very much um the tour right now very much organized by the college. So please contact the college on that. Can we contact someone in the EE department for a personal tour? Yes, you can send email to Bradley. Okay, he's here right now. Okay, and then to see that if we can make the personal tour for you, but at this moment, just let us know, and then we have to make sure with the university and the college about the protocol. What you have to do. Can they allow a non-current student to go on campus right now, no, under the department or not? We have to contact them to make sure everything, and then we will let you know. Okay, so if you would just want to do the tour with the department personally, yes, please feel free to send an email to Bradley. Okay, you can find out his email by look at our department website. Okay, you go to our department website about a staff, and you will see his name there, and then you can send the email to him, and then I can work out with him and the department for that. Okay, and then can we take the PE test and when? You say PE, you mean professional engineering, right? Okay. Um, that depend on the professional engineering exam requirement. I believe that you have to have the degree first. You have to have the bachelor degree before you can take the PE exam. Okay. Okay, so I just answer all of the question on the chat. Now I can take the question. You just feel free to speak whenever you want to have a question. Just unmute yourself and then just speak. Okay. Any question? Feel free to ask. None? Okay, yes, please, Scott.
Hi there, I'm here with my son Liam. He's been accepted to the EE program, and I had a question about the sophomore level courses. Are they academic, or are there labs attached to them where the students actually get their hands on hardware, electronics, and start taking really hands-on courses?
Yes, this we very much our program very much like hand-on. These on of the lab, the student really deal directly with the equipment, to build the circuit, by themselves. It's now for some lab, like I said, it's the instructional lab. This means that the student do the lab under the supervision of the lab instructor, and most of them they are the teaching associate. And for some other lab, we call the open lab. Which means that the lecture instructor give the assignment, and the student can come to lab and do it, themselves. And if they need help, and then they can ask the instructor, and then the instructor will help them with that. Most of the elective course they are the independent lab. That means that students do them by themselves. And most of the required course, we have the instructional lab component to go with it. Now, our goal right now is we want to make all of the course have the lab involved with it, so that students have more hand-on. Right now, I can say that 80% of our course had the lab involved, but not 100%. But our goal is we want to bring this up to almost 100%. That's one of these discussion that we will start to discuss for this semester, and I hope that in the next few years we will have more. We will have more courses with lab involved.
About those sophomore level classes, are they already getting their hands on equipment?
For the software,
sophomore, sorry, the second year courses.
Yeah,
you had pointed out on the curriculum earlier, right. There were a couple of
for the second year. Let I share this screen. Now for the second year,
yeah, 97, 98.
Right. So for the second years here, beside, okay, for the physics, of course, you had a lab with it. Okay, for the 3 courses in physics, you had a lab involved. Only the math, we don't have lab. Communication, no lab. But 97, 98 here, the 98 and the 97 are the 2 core different, but actually it become like one. 98 is the core that completely lecture, okay, to teach students about the circuit, and 97 is the one unique core that completely lab. Okay, so students will spend 3 hours per week in the lab room to do the lab, and then go home to write a report about the lab. Okay, so this is the 100% lab here, 98 here, 100% lecture. And then when you go to the junior level, the 110L here, this is a lab. To go with the 110 is the lecture. Okay, it's like one pair. Okay, 118 is the 4 unit course that the student had 3-hour lecture and 3-hour lab, also instructional lab. Okay, 140 is no lab. Okay, it's completely lecture. Math E153 lab. Okay, lab component go with it. 112 lecture only. 120 3-hour lecture, 3-hour lab. 122 3-hour lecture, 3-hour lab. 128 lecture only. So our goal is to convert do course here, 140 and 122 here, that had the lab component also. Okay, that's the our want. But right now, the 140 and 140 and 128, they are purely a lecture only. But the 140, they had a project at the end. 128 had a project at the end. Okay. And then most of these, the same thing for the last year course also. Like here, 102 is the purely lecture course, but 122 is the course with the lab. 160 is the course with the lab. Okay. 132 right now the lecture course only. The goal is we will convert this become the lecture with 3-hour lab very soon, maybe next year. Okay. 100A 100% lab, 100B 100% lab. Okay, and then for the technical elective, almost technical elective even involved with the lab or the project. Okay, and most of them they are independent. It means that the instructor give the lecture, give the lab assignment, or give the lab mini lab or mini project assignment. Then the student will go to the lab to do by themselves. For some lab room, we have some other assistant to be there to help the student. Some other lab room students just go there to do by themselves, and if they had a problem, they can contact the instructor for help. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Any question?
Hi, good morning. My name is Armando Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm here. You.
Okay, so I'm a transfer student from Gavilan College. I don't know if could you go back to that roadmap you had on?
Okay.
I have completed most of the first 2 years prerequisites, except for EE 97 and EE 98. Those two are not they're not offered at Gavilan College. My question was, would I be able to? I'm obviously like guessing that I have to take those classes before I can take any of the other classes, or could I take?
That's correct. Yes, you have to take the E97, the E98 before you can take the upper division classes.
So
okay.
I wouldn't.
Right, but these I think your college have it have the equivalent 97, 98. Let I look at this because I'm working on that right now. Let I look at. Gavilan, I think Gavilan have the engineering tree. Okay, engineering trees, we articulate with the EE97 and EE98.
So that would have been equivalent to those two classes?
That's right, that's right. If you take the engineering tree at the Gavilan College, that course involve the lecture and the lab together, and that is equivalent to EE97 and EE98. And I recommend you to take that at the Gavilan College before you transfer, so that it helps you to jump into the upper division EE course immediately. Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to take any, like, if I was to take 97, 98, any like electives or any other classes?
Can you say it again?
Yeah, if I was to take 97 and 98, you know, in my first semester at San Jose, would I be able to take any electives or any other classes?
No, you if you take 97, 98, when you come to San Jose State, because all of the upper division EE course here require the EE97, the EE98. So in that case, you cannot take upper division course without completion of 97 and 98 first.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you can make an appointment to see me, and then I can give you some idea, or you can send an email to Dr. David Parent, He the undergrad advisor. Okay, and then he can meet you and help you with the plan. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anybody else have any question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I had two questions. One of them was related to to the previous question regarding just we have to, if we don't have certain classes before that, okay, we could take it at a community college to transfer into the program, and if it is needed for us to take any of the upper division classes, how is that going to prevent us from starting any of the upper division classes at all, or are we just like say quote enrolled unquote, and then until then?
Right. This because the let I go back to share the screen here. Now, because you can see that these, if you look at the junior years here, okay, you see that you take 110, 118. Now the 110 here and 110L is a course that required for the next course that you take over here. 118 is a course that requires size that before you can take 120. Okay, but 110 you have to complete 97, 98 before you can take 110. Because of that, you have to plan to finish these lower division math and basic EE course here before you transfer. It will be better. Okay, now let us show you the critical map. I mean, then that may help you a little bit. Let I go back here. Critical path. Okay, if you look at this, the red one we call a critical path. It means that you have to do red course here as soon as possible because they are the prerequisite for order. So you can see that here 97, 98 here. Okay, you have to finish the course before you can start into those courses here. Okay, all right. So the thing here is, you may say, can I take those 97, 98 here at the same time with 110, suppose like that? My answer is please do not do so. Okay, right now we begin to try to look into the student enrollment carefully, and if the student not satisfied the prerequisites, we will drop the student out. The reason is because it will hurt you, because like 110 here, the materials here require your knowledge into this. If you take these two courses at the same time 110, no way that you can perform good in the 110. It will hurt you. And one, you have that problem, and the problem keep triggered down, and then you continue to have a problem of the remaining of your studies at this stage. Okay, because of that, please look at the critical part here and try to complete as soon as possible. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then I had one more question. Is it what are the class sizes like? Are they impacted at San Jose State? I've heard for like the past decade, all the engineering majors are impacted. Is that still the case, or is that not the case, or less of the case now with the electrical engineering?
Yes, I can say that this we still on impaction. It means that we still select the student, but I can say that right now it's much better than in the past. Okay, because we have a lot of funding that we can open more classes. The universities have a lot of funding to build additional classroom. So the limitation is much better than in the past. In the past, we have a lot of limitation in terms of we don't have enough professor to teach the course. We don't have enough classroom. So because of that, it's more impact. But right now, our program still impact. It means that, you know, we still have to select from top down. But I can say that, you know, mostly that is when you qualify, you will get in because we still have a lot of room. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else have any question? Okay, so if nobody have any question, and I would like to close the session, and thank you very much for attending the information session today. And I hope that, you know, I can answer all of your questions. But if I don't, you still have something that, you know, you need to clarify, please feel free to, you know, send me an email or send email to Bradley, and you know, we will try to answer the question to you. And again, any question regarding, you know, to come to campus in person at this moment, please contact the college. Okay, and so that the college can help you with that, because we still in the status that, you know, try to limit you know, people on the campus because of the pandemic. Okay, all right, thank you very much and have a nice weekend. All right, thank you, Brad.
You're welcome, Twee.
Okay, and we
Enjoy the rest of your
all
weekend.
right. Okay, bye everyone. Bye, Brad.